hero finds. You make a path pass. Yeah, you make a path pass. It's a brand new day. Sun is shining. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long, long time, I know I'll be okay.
Right. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to get plugged in so everyone can hear me better. All right. Welcome to Parent Power Hour. My name is Kristen, and I'm with New Minds Enrichment. And if you're here, you probably have been here with us before throughout the week. This is episode 6 and 7, actually. 6 was yesterday. So that means that we've been here for you, hoping that we've been bringing you some light and some life as parents, as well as things that you can share with your community and your kiddos. And that's what Parent Power Hour is all about. As I've kind of been ending up saying, it doesn't matter if you're a parent or not. This could be called Adult Power Hour. That kind of has a different ring to it, so we're going to stick with Parent Power Hour. And just to remind you that we're here to learn how to get some tips and tools and strategies to better equip ourselves for what life brings us, whether we're in the midst of something that is unpredictable and unusual and feels a little bit like chaos or crisis, but also things that, even if this wasn't going on, there are things that are happening in our worlds, in our homes, in our families, in our communities that we can go back and be stronger and have a better chance of supporting those around us when we take care of ourselves. So that's what Parent Power Hour is about. And if you haven't been listening in to our morning motivation and inspiration with Justin, he is co-founder and CCO of New Minds Enrichment, and he starts off every day with a little inspirational moment, as well as some exciting updates about things that are happening for New Minds. That includes our newminds.tv, which is totally live and out there and ready for all of you to get in there and share with the world. It's totally free. It's a place where those of you who may not have, who may have students or your kiddos, you're not really super happy about them popping on Facebook with your name and that sort of thing, you can hop over there to newminds.tv and find all of our live videos archived there and according to different types of the shows that we actually end up having. And today we're all starting on episode 7. So thank you for joining us here at Parent Power Hour. See a few more people popping in. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Shay. It's like you're like my my support group. I like this. I like how I know that there's certain people that will always be here for me. It warms my heart and it makes me feel very supported, and I appreciate you all for that. Thank you so much. I've got a few things in my hands, just reminding us about our work that we did last week. I'm going to pop this up again. Low tech, clearly, but these are the things that we focused on last week. We started out with defining our why, looking at some desired outcomes, identifying some obstacles that might get in our way, and then we put some plans in place. And that's a very general overview of what we looked at together last week. If any of that sounds piques your interest, or if I reference things today that you're like, what is she talking about? I have no idea. Go back to newminds.tv and all of the notes, all the recordings of last week's, I have like floating here. This is one of those shirts that like you put it on, or for me at least, I put it on and all of my hair sticks in the fibers of it, and then all day long I feel them. My friends and I, we call them phantoms. You know, it's like they're floating on your arms somewhere and you're like, I can feel it, but it's not really there. Okay, I got that out of the way. I had to name it to tame it because it was here floating around in my head, and I was like, if I don't get it out, it's going to be on my mind the whole time, and I won't feel really good about it. Which is one of the things we talked about last week, which was naming it to tame it. if you were just on or able to go back and watch Justin's inspiration this morning for episode 7. He did a really wonderful reading from a very professional doctor, and I'm not going to give it away. But while he was reading, what I started hearing, because when you are trying to apply things to your life and figure out what's going on, and managing this chaos and managing this crisis and it's a new definition of reality, right? And that's a little bit about what we talked about yesterday. How do we handle change? What are some things that we can do to define our reality? And so that's what actually emerged for me when I was listening to Justin's reading this morning was the survivor, the person in I don't want to give away the name because I want you to go back and watch it. It's too good. I even was giggling at him a little bit. Not at him, but mostly at his ability to read so clearly the challenging words that were in the book. And what I started to imagine was that the lead character, or one of the lead characters in the passage that he was reading, had to name it. He had to name the chaos that he was going through. And if you go back and listen, you'll see wow, what a challenge it was for him to name that. He had to give that thing all the overwhelming change, all the overwhelming things. Hey, Tina, good morning. Actually, good evening. You're probably your family in Dubai. I'm so glad you're here. So what we're kind of talking about is Justin's morning motivation that he just posted a second ago, and how, or I guess last hour, how the character, one of the lead characters in the passage that he read, had to name what he was going through. And boy, was it even a challenge for him to give what he was going through a name. And I really love that part of it because, number one, it connected so much to what we talked about last week with naming it to tame it, putting out in the world external to us. Okay. Putting out, sorry, I just got a notification. We're all good in our video. Thank you. Putting out a notification to us, putting out in the world to us from within us. I'm going to get it soon. Just hang tight. It'll come out of my head. Putting out in the world the things that are inside of us, whether they're fears, whether they're hopes and dreams. When we do those things, we bring it out and we share it with the world. And I really would encourage you to go back and listen in, maybe while you're cooking or while you're on your evening walk or something. Hi, Lynn. Welcome. Thank you so much. She says, thank you for sharing. I love to hear that encouragement. I'm so glad you're here. But when we put those things out in the world, that number one, if it has a shadow to it, we're putting light on it, right? I read a passage from Brene Brown's Brave and Strong about shame and how shame shrinks in the light. So that's just a little recap about what we did last week. And then yesterday we really zeroed in on when we're talking about who we want to be at the end of this. We talked about how we identified our why last week. We identified who we are, what's important to us. And I encouraged you yesterday and as well as today, if you didn't get a chance to watch yesterday's, to think about who do you want to be at the end of this. It's not forever. It's going to end. We already see it coming to a close in certain parts of the world. We don't know how long it's going to last for us here, and this can go for any challenge that we're facing in life. It does not have to just be for this worldwide pandemic that we're experiencing right now. I hope that this is something that you're able also to start to pack away in your experience, in your listening and your learning with us, and the powering up that we're doing together, is that this goes for any challenge, even when we're back to regular life, that your desire of who you want to be, the version of yourself that you want to be on the other side of it, is greater than any of your fears. And that's a decision. As an adult, that's a decision that you have to make, that you get to make, that you can practice making if you're not in the habit of practicing that yet. And it takes practice. And the more we identify I want to be this, and this is more important than any of my fears, any of my negative self-talk. The more we can do that, the greater we are at living into our full meaning, our full purpose, who we are meant to be, the kind of parent that we are meant to be, the kind of person that we are showing to others with all of our love, with our whole being. And so that's part of what I am practicing as well. This is me speaking to you all. I don't really know Lynn. I don't think I do. I know Shay and Tina and Ben, and I see there's some others on here as well. But from this community of people that I both know and people I don't know, I have a lot of fears. I have felt both fears of how I might come off to people I 100% know, and they know me and they know all my faults and imperfections and my humanity. And I also have fears of disappointing them. I mean, that's a big thing for me, that there's so many people that believe in me. I am so humbled by a lot of the responses that not only I'm getting personally about Parent Power Hour, but also that we're getting from our community that's supporting NewMinds.tv. And wow, they believe in us so much. And I don't want to let you all down. We don't want to let you all down. And I know we're not going to. Collectively as NewMinds.tv, we are not going to let you down. I believe in the power of this group of people that are coming to you daily and hourly with amazing things for your kiddos. And I have to transfer that same belief that I have in my team to myself when I come up to you all. And that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today as well. Okay, yeah, so let's get to it. I previewed yesterday how we will be talking about, we get trapped in this, we get stuck in this trap a lot of times. And this is exactly kind of what I was starting to talk about a second ago, and referencing yesterday also about our fears. And that a lot of times what we end up doing is we start to talk ourselves out of it. You probably named that person if you were with us last week. You named us, and thank you. Yes, 100%. Shay saying yes, 100%. She's there with the belief in the power of our team. She's on our team, keeping us going in the background. Wow, we couldn't do it without all the levels of people that are involved in NewMinds.tv. So here we are, and we're doing something new. We're doing something we haven't done before. You are doing something new. You're experiencing something you have not experienced before. Working from home, kids at home all day, whatever the case is. And we start to do, yesterday I called it a spiral. We start to think of all of the worst case scenarios of things that are probably going to happen, and how if we can anticipate the worst thing, then we're prepared for the worst, and then we will be okay with whatever the worst, whatever happens that's not the worst, because then we prepared for the worst, right? I know some of us do this. I find myself doing it sometimes. I know there's some people out there, and yes, we need you too. We all need to know. I heard a research article once about, and I'm going to get all the details wrong. I am not a small details person. I'm a big picture person, so stick with me, and I'll kind of review the research. But what they studied was a group of chimpanzees, and I'll put a number on it, 40. And they noticed their personalities. They noticed the ones that were kind of the ones that were the preparers of the food and the gathering of the food, the helpers. They observed the ones that were the more of the introverts that tended to remove themselves from the group at times. They noticed the ones that were the warriors, and the ones that would fixate on their personality and their mannerisms would communicate to the community that they were warriors. Warriors, not warriors. That's some of my accent coming in. So they studied them over time and figured out saw these different personalities. And they removed all the helpers, and the group kind of went along fine. Other personalities emerged and ended up helping. They put all the helpers back in with the group of 40. And this is a group of chimpanzees that they studied. And then they removed all of the introverts. So they removed each of the different kind of personalities from the group, and the group kept going. They removed the group of warriors, the ones that were always trying to anticipate what's the worst thing that's going to happen. They removed them from the group, and they came back a week later, and none of the others had survived. I'm not lying. I don't know the name. I heard it on NPR. I will go digging around if you really want to know the source of this research, but that, we do need the people that do predict some of the worst outcomes so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can survive as a group, so that, because that's something that's so unique about each of us, and that we all have an element of that in us. I know that we all do because it's survival. I mean, we all have to anticipate sometimes what's the worst thing that's going to happen so I can survive. And I didn't say that to encourage you to go be a warrior and to encourage you living in the worst case scenario kind of land. But to those of you who are, that's your mentality, that's your way of thinking, to let you know that we do need you, and we will take and we will listen, and we will be able to proceed with caution because of the caution that you're able to predict for us. And what I would like to challenge those of you who might live in this space of more of worrying and fear is that we are in this together, and that you don't have to self-isolate and think that you're in this alone and that you're the only one that has the solutions to all the worst case scenarios that you're experiencing in your head, in your heart, in your body, in your soul. Because those are things that we do internalize, negative thoughts, whatever kind of thoughts they are, negative or positive. So to kind of come back to our focus today is that since we all do this as a natural human experience, is for us to self-protect, for us to think about, okay, what's kind of the worst thing that could happen, or what's something that's negative that could happen. We don't live there forever. That's not healthy. But that's a part of our human experience. So instead of spiraling, instead of being like, okay, well, this is probably the worst thing that could happen, excuse me, and you know what? I don't even think we can make it. I'm going to start to doubt, right? We're going to start right away to move into this first phase of these 3Ds, and we're going to start to doubt our capabilities. We're going to start to doubt, well, I just made that up. Like, that's not actually something that's important to me. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm just going to move on and let that go because that's silly. You start to diminish. Even I would add another D to this. You start to shrink yourself, to shrink your desires, to shrink your hopes, because then you're avoiding that disappointment, right? You're avoiding of all of the things where you're like, well, it's probably not going to happen anyway, so I'm gonna forget about it. Even just forgetting about it, putting it out of your mind is doubting the reason why you had that in the first place, the reason why you had that hope, that desire, that fear, the reason why you settled in. I'm losing all my notes now. The reason why you settled in on what was your why last week. Adversity comes, things start to challenge it. The circumstances that we're living in, the external world around us, causes us to start to doubt that that was even something that's a part of us, and that it's who we are, and that it's what we're meant to do anyways. And then because we start doubting, then we start to slide into delaying, and we start saying, well, that wasn't really what I really wanted. It's not actually as important as I thought it was. So you know what? I'm gonna put it away later, or when the right time comes, then I'm gonna go do that thing that I know in my heart I'm supposed to do. It's not the right time right now for me to be the leader of my family and model for my family some healthy habits, because while I see myself as someone who can get up every morning and practice yoga for 45 minutes, that's probably not something that my family's they're gonna be like, what is she doing? And so what, I'll do it later when everybody's not home. You start putting all these delays on it. You start thinking, well, now's not the right time. And sure, okay, yeah, it's there in me a little bit. I don't really believe it's really there for the reasons that I thought it was before, but whatever it is, now's not the right time. Because it's too hard. It's not the right time because my family's around too much and they're going to see me going through this, and I don't, that's not the right time. It's not the right time because I need to stay the same. I need to be consistent with exactly who I was pre-COVID, and I need to make sure that post-COVID me is like, here I go, I'm exactly the same. So you start making up all of these different times and about delaying when you're going to be the person that you know that you're supposed to be, or do the thing that you know that you're meant to do or called to do. And before you know it, you're very divided. You're so far away. This gap between your desire and those fears that are starting to happen just creates so much divide that you don't even recognize anymore what you're doing daily has nothing to do at all with your why. It has nothing to do at all. I'm going to pick it up, excuse me. Has nothing to do at all with all of the work that you did last week in identifying your wish and settling in and being who you are. So this 3D spiral ends you up, or causes you to end up at the end of post-COVID times way further away from who you are now, who you could be, and who you want to be. So how do we fix that? The options are, instead of doubting who you are, go with confidence. And it sounds simple, and some of you are like, girl, please, like, I know who I am. Like, I am power. I am a parent powerhouse. I've got this thing TikTok set up. My kids are on a schedule. I've got confidence. Okay, please, like, come be a specialist on here. Let me interview you. Let me share with us. But I know there's at least one or two of you out here that are saying, yeah, but now's not the right time, and that wasn't really what I wanted to do anyways. That's not really who I want to be. It's going to be too hard. And you've just talked yourself out of that confidence. So stick with it. Keep those wishes and those, the vision of who you casted of yourself last week in our vision casting practice. Keep that forefront, because that's there for a reason. Have confidence in that. Know that this is who I am. Be that girl, be that person, be that mom, be that dad, be that leader of your family, be that person that you think, well, that person probably has it all figured out inside of their home. They haven't left in 8-9 days. And you know what? They're rocking it. They've got all their closets organized. They've got blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to leave it. Tina's on here, and she and I know how to interpret that. Not doubting that they don't have their closets organized, but what else is also going on? And maybe that person that's been in their house for 9 days and their garage is tip-top shape is because instead of leaning into doubt and delay and divide, they've leaned into the confidence that this is it, this is the moment for me, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to show my family I am, and so now I'm going to go take some action. I'm going to go organize my garage. I'm going to go, and it may seem something like that's something that's like logistical. Right, Tina just popped in. It may seem something that's logistical, but it could also be something that's happening internally, and something that is saying, well, later, and the opposite of that is get to it. Rip off that Band-Aid. Another tip that I have for you here is start before you're ready. I gathered this from Marie Forleo. She has a book called Everything is Figure Outable. I highly recommend it, especially right now. I mean, at all times in life, and also with what we're going through right now. If you like audiobooks, I encourage you to listen to that one, because she's originally from Jersey, and she talks about when things get tough and when she has to be a little bit going forward with a lot of confidence and action. She turns on her Jersey Marie, and she turns on her whole, like, it's definitely worth listening to. It's entertaining, as well as has some amazing gems in it. Start before you're ready. You may not feel like that you're at the place yet where you can fully act on all of the desires and the outcomes and the wishes that you have. You can still tick off tiny actions, little piece by little piece, to prepare for that person that's the post-COVID person of you, the person that is finally being able to live in. If it's today after lunch that you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that one thing that's going to get me one step closer to the thing I know I'm meant to do, to the person I know I'm meant to be. When we're doing that, that creates an even stronger connection with who we are. It's there in front of us every day. And instead of being so far away from our desires, that gap between our desires and our fears is almost not, it doesn't exist, because our desires are who we want to be, our confidence in our action is even more strongly connected, so that every conversation we have, every challenge we face with our families over the next who knows how many days, every interaction that we have with our virtual communities, if we're in conference calls with friends, or excuse me, with our companies, if we are in group calls with friends across the world, because we still have to be social and connect with each other. Even in those moments, it can emerge and it can come out in every conversation that you have. It just starts to leak into everything, because then you realize, wait a minute, this is who I am, and I'm not going to turn it off anymore, and I'm not going to stop being who I am because of such and such situation that I feel like is telling me that, telling me that I can't do this right now, or whatever your self-talk is, whoever that person is, whoever you've named. First of all, tell them to shut it, and then tell them, you know what, person, remember, I have to just call mine sis so I don't get myself in trouble. I mean, like, hey, sis, now's not the day. Now's not the time for you to be all up in me, trying to make me think things that are not true. You're not going to stop me from this, and I'm not going to get further away from my meaning and what I'm meant to do. I'm going to go with confidence and action. I'm going to connect. And connection is less about comfort than it is about challenge. And we talked about that yesterday. We talked about how change equals challenge because it's unfamiliar and it's new. And what we do is we decide instead that our work has more meaning when we are challenged. Our connections have more meaning when we are challenged. You came here to Power Hour, to Parent Power Hour, to be challenged. And that in and of itself means that you are coming to have a greater and deeper connection, maybe to those of us in this community, and also a greater and deeper connection to your why and who you're more fully meant to be. I'm just going to read real quick for a reference so I don't mess this up. When your efforts correspond with one of your primary passions, we identified those last week. We had a huge brainstorming page or two of all the things that we're passionate about and the visions that we have. When your efforts correspond with one of your primary passions, it leads to personal and professional growth, and it makes a clear and contribution to others. What we end up calling those things is satisfying. Your passion plus your growth plus the contribution, equals personal satisfaction. Our desire for things to make sense is more important than autonomy and balance. We'll even put our own desires for control or work-life balance aside if we sense that what we are doing makes sense and adds to a greater whole. So that what we're really narrowing in on here right now is that our connection is not necessarily about staying connected to our why. It's not necessarily about staying in comfort zone. And I don't think any of us are really in the comfort zone right now with what we're all experiencing together. Instead to see that as well, that's it, this is too hard, or this is so hard, we don't know when it's going to stop being hard. It may not stop being hard because it's a challenge for us. And when we are challenged, we are growing. And I think that kind of wraps up. Oh, no, I had one more thing. So part of our connection to our why is also has to do with the people that we share that with, right? And I think I'll skip that for now. I think that's part of what I'm sensing about my hesitation about going there. Yeah. This, by the way, is by the High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. I took off the fun cover because I just, it's easier for me to handle books. Also, an audio version of this book is hidden in his podcast. If you don't have time to read, it is a really great read. It also has prompts for questions, which is what we're going to end with today. And ending with this, this actually kind of circles back around to what we were talking about yesterday with which all of this is circling around. I'm just going to stop saying that because I feel like I say that a million times on each of these parent power hours, and you're like, we get it, Kristen, everything's connected. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad you get it. So I was browsing through this looking for some of the things about connection and confidence in action. That I remembered. I was like, oh, which one of my resources was that? And so while I was browsing, of course, I ended up spending like 40 minutes like tabbing and underlining and, putting all kinds of markers in places like that, because I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be sure to talk about that. Oh yeah, I want to be sure to talk about that. So what we're going to end with today is more, well, I mean, he's a New York Times bestselling author, so of course he's going to say it better than me. But the way that he frames putting up our vision of who we want to be at the end of this. He doesn't, of course, talk about specifically COVID, although if you go to his Instagram, he has some amazing videos right now about surviving COVID and all of this. And it's almost all of it is taken from this is his most recent book. So reconnecting with your passion, setting up a structure to develop more skills, and talking about who we want to be at the end of this is what he calls the future 4. So thinking about who you want to be in the future, thinking about who you want to be in these 4 areas for yourself, being more intentional about who you want to become, having a vision beyond your current circumstances. Wow. Imagine your best future self and start acting like that person today. Wow. Page 65, clarity. I'm like, were you listening to us? Oh wait, I got in my brain somewhere. And so when I'm sharing them with you, they come out. And then later on, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's from Brenda Burchard. So the first future 4 is yourself. The second is social. How are you going to think about, or how are other people going to think about you? How are you going to be remembered during this time? You anticipate your positive social interactions. You strive consciously and consistently to create them. What are you doing to consistently strive and have to do with how are you approaching, how do I want those I love to remember me? At the end of this phase that we're all going through together, at the end of the week, at the end of the day, how do you want those that you love want to remember you during this time? At the end of this day, do you want them to remember you? You fill in the blank. I'm not going to belabor that point. So the first S is self. The second is social. The third is skills. Now that I'm saying this, I should have written it down on one of my little green papers. My apologies. What kind of skills can you gather up? Look to the future and identify the key skills and obsessively develop those skills so that you can skill up for post-COVID, for the future self of who you want to be. No matter what your current level of performance is, clarifying the skills that you need to master your next level of success must be a priority, because it's going to help you to connect with your passion, and it's going to help you to set up a structure to develop more skills. So self, social, skills, and the last one is service. Specifically, high performers, which is what his book is about, high performance habits, care deeply about the difference they're going to make for others. When someone becomes disconnected from their future and their contribution to it, they end up underperforming. So what we're doing is we're hoping, and I want you to know that we are here to support you. That is our service that we're offering to you right now. And think about these areas, about how you already have been exceeding and playing for your future self, with yourself, your socials, your skills, and your services. And then think about for a minute, whenever you have that time, which you might have more time now than you did previously, about maybe which ones are the ones that you have considered that you might need to pay more attention to, and in what ways specifically, right? To leave a lasting legacy, what are the things that we want to end this week with, this day with, this next hour with. And I hope that gives you some things to roll around in the back of your head. As always, having comments about how this is going for you, questions or topics that you're interested in hearing more about. Clearly, I don't mind like picking up a book and learning about something else. That's going to help all of us grow as a community and to stay super connected to our why, so that we can go forward with confidence and action and connection no matter what's going on. And also to wrap things up so that you know that we're all in this together. We are staying connected. And we thank you so much for coming in here today to Parent Power Hour, that you've tuned in to our real inspired learning experience. And I really hope that this is giving you some things to think about and helping you to stay true to yourself and pursuing your passions until they become your talents. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Let's end with our song. I think it'll play. That was a little too loud. Great day, everybody. Bye.